Welcome back. In this video, we are going to get started with what we call UML class diagrams. So we're starting to document the data structure for our business process. Now I'm using a tool here called Visio Professional. If you've got a student account, you can probably go to the Microsoft Software for Students and enter your university credentials and actually get access to it yourself. There are a lot of alternatives available, including Lucidchart and some free web-based alternatives. I'll provide a list of alternatives for you in an appendix to this reading module. In order to get started, we're thinking about the database that our business process is going to have and how we want to organize it into different tables and so forth. UML stands for Unified Modeling Language. It is a standard created by the Object Management Group that's used throughout the world in systems development, systems design, documenting business systems, and so forth. So it's a pretty standard documentation convention for building a data model. So we call these UML class diagrams because they focus on classes that will be in the database. So as I drag one in, you can see I have a class name, a member name, another member name, and I can keep adding more members if I want. So I'll just drag a couple more out here. Now, one convention that we use in accounting is we generally organize, I'll add a couple text boxes up here. We generally organize our diagrams so that we have resources over to the left, and then events in the middle, and agents over on the right. Okay? So we call that the REA approach to modeling. I'll go ahead and line these up. Line these up. Okay, so let's say we want to document the purchase ordering process. Well, we can start with the event, and we know the event is going to be purchase order. We typically enter the event or the class name in singular form. That's not necessary, but that just is a convention that we tend to use. All right, so when we create a purchase order, what is it that we might be trying to purchase? Well, we're trying to purchase some kind of resources. So we'll just say products. So we're trying to purchase one or more products, and we're probably going to be purchasing it from a vendor. All right. Now we may have another class here. Probably that would be an employee participating in the purchase order process. All right, so there we've got the classes that we need. Now let's start thinking about which attributes will be in each class. So first off, I'm going to have purchase order ID or purchase order number, purchase order date, and then I'll add another member, and I'll call this vendor ID. Employee ID. Probably a few other things, but for now, this is a good place to start. All right, so in that purchase order, we're going to purchase some products. So let's start here again, and the product will have a product ID. And then maybe a product description. you may have some other information about the product, like the weight, size of the product. And then I could say product cost. All right, so how much is it going to cost us to purchase that product? Or maybe standard cost. All right, next I'm going to have the vendor name or vendor ID first. Vendor name, maybe contact information, and maybe the standard terms we have with that vendor. All right. All right, now let's go down to employee. We'll have employee ID. Employee name. Employee address, and other, maybe employee title. And so on and so forth. All right, so we now have the basic information we need for our purchasing process, our purchase order process. Let's see if we can now figure out how these different classes connect to each other. And we connect them in general through something called an association. So this is an association in UML class diagrams. And I know for my purchase order, I'm going to purchase one or more products. So I'm just going to connect up like that there. And I've got my basic connection. All right. Now, beyond my basic connection, it's important to know how many products I might buy, how many of each I'm going to have. So we add what are called multiplicities to our diagram. So I'm basically just going to click on this line and say show multiplicities. And you can see it gives me 4 options. I only need 2 of them, because we have different conventions that are out there. We'll use the standard UML notation for multiplicities in this class. So every purchase order I make is going to be for a minimum of 1 product up to many products. So I indicate that with an asterisk. Let me make this a little bit, text a little bit bigger there. All right. Now, how many purchase orders is every product going to have? Well, this depends on the business rule of the organization. So the multiplicities actually give you some insight into how the business is run. Now, if I only record a product if I've purchased it, then my multiplicity is going to look like this, 1 ... star. So each product I may purchase multiple times. So if I've got a vendor and I'm, let's say I'm a fast food restaurant and I buy straws from a vendor. Well, I'm going to buy straws probably lots of times, lots of different, lots of straws many times. Now there may be another rule where I get a quote for lots of different things, but maybe I don't buy all of those things at least once. There may be some items in my product database that I never purchase. So in that case, I would have a minimum number of purchase orders for that product of 0 up to a maximum number of purchase orders for a product of many. So I can still buy lots of straws, but I may never buy the loop straw that that vendor happens to sell. All right. So especially if ERPs are linked together and the vendor can populate our product table with their product list, there may be some products in there that we never buy. All right, so now we can go through this process and basically repeat it for our other associations. So I'm going to have a vendor that handles that I'm purchasing from. All right, so let's see what the multiplicities look like there. So each purchase order is going to be made from one vendor and a maximum of one vendor. I'm not going to make one purchase order from multiple vendors. All right, at least most businesses don't. So we'll call that our standard business rule here. And likewise, I have kind of the same problem I had with products. I may have some vendors that I've received quotes for, and they've populated my vendor table with some information. So I've put them in, and I may never order from them, in which case, you know, the minimum would be 0. But let's say I only record a vendor once I have ordered from them. So in this case, every vendor that's in my vendor table, I would have ordered from at least once. And then my straw vendor, I may have plenty of orders from that vendor. All right. So hopefully you can kind of see how this works and are getting a feel for it. Same thing's going to happen with employees. I'll create one more. So every purchase order is going to be made by one and only one employee. And then, now I may have lots of employees, some who never create purchase orders. And then my purchasing clerk probably creates lots of purchase orders. So now I can create a maximum of many purchase orders for one instance in that employee class. All right, so this gives you a feel for how building a UML diagram works. You're more than welcome to try it with one of the tools that you see in the appendix, or it's always okay, or it's okay just to try it out with a pencil and a piece of paper to begin with. All right, so we'll let you get back to the reading module from here.